There's a moment that comes to every man, when something difficult, scary, frightening, uncomfortable there is standing in front of you. And you know exactly what you ought to do. But every part of you wants to avoid it, not do it, run away. Right? You feel that, right? We've been there. You feel that fear. You feel that hesitation. You start looking for a way out, You think, maybe tomorrow. Maybe someone else should do it. Maybe it's not really necessary. You just start reaching for excuses, you know what I mean? And the truth is, the thing's so scary, no one would blame you for not doing it, running away, whatever it is. It's reasonable to not face this fear. And let's suppose you could do it. You could walk away. And let's say no one would know even, right? Almost, except you. Because in that case, walking away would cost you something. It might cost you your integrity. It might cost you your marriage. It might cost you your health. It might cost you your business. Running away might cost you an opportunity you'll never have again. Or maybe just running away will cost you the peace of mind, knowing that you wimped out, right? You see, every time you choose comfort over duty, you lose some good that was possible only if you had the courage to act. So you lose that good. That's the first cost or price, right? But there's actually a second price, and it's a heavier one. And it's this, that every time you surrender to fear, every time you give in, every time you chicken out, you give in to that fearful inclination, the flight reaction instead of the fight, right? You become a little more likely to do it again. You're building a habit in the wrong direction. Every time you choose comfort over duty, you make that comfortable choice easier the next time. Because the truth is that characters form that way. We know this from classical philosophy. We've known this for thousands of years. And here's the thing, too. What you decide to do in that moment wasn't fully decided in that moment. It was decided by all the habits you built up throughout your life. Usually it's the case that the man who decides to stand firm and face that fear, he faced a bunch of other smaller things long before this one arrived. And the man who gets scared and walks away, he's built that habit too. You see? So today we're going to talk about the mental habit you need to do the right thing in that moment. It's the virtue, the mental habit that you need to do the right thing in those moments. The Romans called it Fortitude. The Greeks called it Andrea. It just literally means manliness. Modern English today, we call it fortitude. We might call it courage. In our culture, we call it mental toughness, right? And you need this. I need this. We all need this virtue of fortitude or mental toughness to have a thriving life. And if you're thinking, I don't have it, I wasn't born with that, get that excuse out of your head right now. Because these virtues, you do not have to be born with, you train them. You don't have to be born mentally tough. You can train that. You see? Maybe some people are born more calm and brave. Doesn't matter. This is a learnable skill that you can develop. It's a habit. It's built over time. And that means anyone can do it, even you. You need it. You can do it. And we're going to talk about how today. So here's what we're going to cover today. First, I'm going to talk about what this mental toughness or this mental strength or fortitude actually is and why a lot of people get it wrong. We're going to talk about why you need to develop this strength in order to have a happy and thriving life. We're going to talk about ways you can mess it up. 2 ways, not one. Most people think you just mess it up by being a coward. Not true. Then we'll look at some examples of what courageous, mentally strong people look like, so you can kind of mimic their example. And then last and most importantly, I'm going to show you how to build it. I'm going to give you a proven method for becoming a mentally strong person. Proven. It works for sure. All right, so let's take that first thing. What is fortitude? Classically speaking, fortitude is just the habit of being mentally strong, right? It means standing firm in the face of fear, difficulties, pain, setbacks, discomfort, without quitting, without complaining, without wimping out, right? Let's just have that as a working definition, right? Let's kind of sharpen it up philosophically. Aristotle talks about this in his book, The Nicomachean Ethics. And he says something that people always kind of get backwards sometimes. He says, courage is not the absence of fear. Courageous people feel fear. The man who doesn't feel fear at all, he's not brave. Aristotle says he's insane, or he doesn't understand what's going on. Right? A man who walks into a burning building whistling because he doesn't know what burning buildings do, he's not displaying courage. He's ignorant. Okay? No, courage, Aristotle says, is about fearing the right things in the right way at the right time for the right reason. So fear is present. Okay, so think about that. Fear is not the enemy. Fear is information. Hey, this is a risky thing. This is a dangerous thing. Right? It's telling you something, and it's usually telling you the truth. Feeling of fear is not a bad thing. It's informing you of some reality. Right? So brave people aren't the kind of people who just squelch that signal. They feel it, right? They hear it. They weigh it. But then they act anyway. They act because whatever it is they're acting for is more important. You know? And then Aristotle adds one more thing, is that courageous people act for the sake of the noble. They don't just act for money, for applause, not because they have no other option. They act because they want to endure the hard thing, because the hard thing is worth doing. Because a lot of people can be fearless. A criminal can be fearless. A fanatic can be fearless. But they're not courageous in this Aristotelian sense. They have to do it for the good. So to kind of flesh this definition out philosophically, it's not just merely mental toughness. To get down to sort of the nitty-gritty, what fortitude is, it's the settled habit of standing firm against fear, pain, and difficulty for the sake of what's right. Yeah. Thomas Aquinas even talks about it more. It's not just acting in a one and done thing. That is part of it, but it's also enduring pain over time. We're going to talk about that later. And he thinks the enduring the long-term suffering is a part of fortitude as well, and that's harder than the one-off courageous act. We'll talk about that later on. So that's what fortitude is. And I think it's pretty clear why it matters, but let's go into that, why you should care. Why should you care? Why do you need fortitude? Well, the short answer is because without courage, without fortitude, you can't consistently do what's right. You can't. And if you can't consistently do what's right, you can't live a good life, by definition. You can't flourish. You can't become the person that you want to become, that you're capable of becoming. And more importantly, man, you'll never enjoy that deep peace of mind that comes from knowing that your life is governed by reason and not fear. So fortitude is important for your flourishing. Challenges are guaranteed. Pain, fear, failure, disappointment. Those things are coming for all of us. You're not going to get out of them. Suffering's coming. No one gets out. But the person with fortitude refuses to back down. They push through discomfort, take on difficult goals, endure hardship without folding. So it's important. And Aristotle brings up an additional point. He says that the greatest obstacle to living a good life is usually not ignorance, like you don't know it's not about you not knowing how to do the right thing, it's weakness. You can't live the good life because you're weak. Most people already know they should tell the truth, keep their promises, remain faithful to their spouse, forgive those who've wronged them, control their tempers. The problem is not ignorance there, it's that doing those things can cost you something. It requires sacrifice, Knowing what's right is one thing. Doing it consistently is another one, you see? So every virtue becomes difficult. It's hard to be honest if the truth is expensive. It's hard to be just if doing the just thing costs you something. It's hard to control yourself when the desires are strong. You see, so fortitude is the virtue that helps you do the right thing even when it's hard, even when it's painful. So if you don't have the courage there, it's hard to act out the other virtues. You can't live a good, virtuous life if you are mentally weak. Period. You can't thrive if you don't live a virtuous life. You can't live a virtuous life if you don't have the mental strength to do the right thing. When it's scary, cost you something, etc. You see? So that's why fortitude is indispensable, man. I mean, if you don't have that, fear is going to govern your life. You'll avoid difficult conversations. You won't attempt worthwhile goals because you're scared. You'll break promises because sometimes it gets too costly. And little by little, your life becomes directed less by reason and more by comfort. You're not in control. You're not able to do the right thing. The person with fortitude lives differently, right? They have the strength to keep going when most people will give up. And they also can endure suffering. They are resilient. And this deserves a closer look because for most of us, it's not about just doing the courageous one-off acts like I was saying. It's enduring the suffering that life is going to give you, right? Sooner or later, we all have to face these things. The death of someone you love, a bad health diagnosis, the loss of a dream, a broken marriage, a child who suffers, a betrayal you didn't see coming. Boom. These are the trials that life throws at us, man. And you have to be resilient. You can't just collapse when these sometimes horrible things happen to us. You got to continue doing what's right while carrying these burdens. Sometimes for a long time, day after day, month after month, year after year. This is where fortitude becomes patience. This is where courage becomes resilience. This is mental toughness stretched across time. It's what fortitude looks like when suffering or scary things just don't last for a moment, but they last for months or years or even a lifetime. You see, when you have this long-term fortitude, this virtue of patience, it's the refusal to let suffering determine the kind of person you become. It also refuses to let suffering steal your peace. Because, look, I'm not saying courageous will always remove your pain. It can't always change your circumstances, but it can keep suffering from ruling your soul. It helps you become steady when life is not, to endure loss without despair, without shutting down, still being able to function and pursue the good, still being able to have a happy life, even in spite of the painful long-term suffering that you're going through. You see? So it's the same virtue, fortitude, in both cases. Before the trial, before the scary thing, fortitude gives you the courage to step forward and do the good, even when you're scared. And then during the trial or after it, fortitude gives you the patience to stay faithful to the good and keep your happiness despite the suffering. It ensures that suffering never becomes your master. It refuses to let pain become your identity. So that's it, man. That's why you can't flourish without this. That's why you need to develop this mental habit, because without it, you can't live a good life according to reason. You can't live the virtuous life. You just can't. You can't enjoy that deep confidence and tranquility that comes from knowing I can endure things. I can look at the future and knowing, hey, man, I'm strong enough. I can get through whatever life places before me. That's a comforting thought, but you can't think that if you haven't developed that mental strength. If your mental muscles are weak, you can't think you can lift heavy weights with them. Seneca understood this well. He argues that hardship is not the interruption of a good life. It's part of the education to live one. The hardships that life throws at us are the mental weights that make us strong. Stacking more plates on the bar so your mental strength gets stronger, that's what hardship does. It's needed for a proper moral formation. You can't develop courage and fortitude if nothing bad ever happens. Seneca saw that. You don't become mentally strong by living comfortably. Life gives you weights, gives you suffering, mental weights to make your mind strong. Adversity, Seneca says, forces us to develop those virtues that man comfort never can. Epictetus makes the same point. He says that circumstances don't make the man, they reveal him. You discover how much fortitude you have when life gets hard, right? When you get that difficult diagnosis, when your business begins to fail, when telling the truth is going to have some consequences for you, when remaining faithful requires sacrifice, okay? On that day when those things happen, either the habit is there, either you develop that mental strength or you have not. That, my friends, is why you need this mental habit. It's why you have to develop fortitude. It's so damn important. All right, so given that, let's try to understand fortitude a little bit better and see the two different ways you can mess it up. Most people think there's just one way. There's actually two. I mean, the one that obviously comes to mind is cowardice. If you don't have enough fortitude, you're a coward. You run away from scary things. Aristotle says there's actually another extreme is having too much fortitude, that is being reckless. So virtue is kind of this doctrine of the mean. The virtue of courage or fortitude is in the middle. It's between cowardice on one side and recklessness on the other. Cowardice is not courage, not enough. Recklessness is not courage, it's an excess. Okay, so let's talk about those. Cowardice is pretty cowardice is pretty obvious, right? The man who lacks fortitude, he's ruled by fear. He runs away from things. He complains. He makes excuses. He's mentally weak. Instead of facing problems, he runs away. Instead of getting back up after failure, he just stays down and feels sorry for himself. Coward. Right? Always taking the easy way out. There are other things to look out for, to how different ways that cowardice might creep up in your life, right? Things you may not think about, what cowardice looks like, because it's not always a soldier running away on the battlefield. It's a little bit more subtle in our normal lives. Cowardice in most of our lives looks like this. It looks like a conversation you've needed to have for 8 months, but you keep putting it off. Too scared to have that conversation. It looks like the doctor's appointment that you got to have. You be needing to go, but you didn't make it because you don't want to know. You don't want to know the outcome. It looks like staying in a job that you know is wrong for you. You're miserable in, but it's more comfortable than taking that unknown risk. You're too scared to go look for a new job. It looks like a father who's too scared to correct his child because he can't stand his child being angry with him. It looks like a man who has opinions in private, but he's too scared to express them. None of these things typically get called cowardice today. They get called other things. Oh, I'm busy. Oh, I'm just being realistic. Oh, I'm just easygoing, man. I'm just keeping the peace. Cicero would call it what it is. A coward, a man who withholds what he owes. And here's the cost of that no one ever tells you about. Every time you take that easy way, you don't just stay where you were, you get worse. The habit strengthens in the wrong direction. Every cowardly act makes you a little bit more and more and more habitually a coward. You do this cowardly act and this one and this one and this one. Pretty soon you build a habit of cowardice and you become a cowardly kind of person. Those acts build your habits. Your habits determine the kind of person you are, your character, and your character determines your destiny. You have the destiny now in this world of a coward. you get what cowards get. Cowardice compounds with every action, right? The 10th time you do a cowardly act was easier than the first. You develop the muscles in the wrong direction. You develop the habit in the wrong direction. That's the real price of every cowardly act. It's not whatever you failed to get then and there, right? You're becoming a certain kind of person every single time you do it. A cowardly kind of person. That's the real price. That's one way you can mess up not having enough fortitude. The second way is recklessness, because Aristotle says the reckless man is not brave. He's too careless with things. He's careless with things that deserve care, right? It's not like jumping out of it's not some extreme all the time, like jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. In ordinary life, it looks different, right? It looks like the man who bets the house on a business, but he didn't research it, didn't do his homework. He calls it boldness. He's a fool, right? The man who says the brutal thing in the meeting and calls it courage, when really he's just a jerk, just likes to argue. He calls that courage. The man who takes physical risk with a family depending on him, he calls it living fully, you know. Sometimes recklessness feels like courage, but that's kind of what makes it dangerous, right? You think you're doing a virtuous act, right? This is Aristotle's test, if you're being reckless or not. Is it aimed at something genuinely worth the risk? If it is, fine, it's courage. If it's not, if it's disproportionate in some way, it's reckless. Don't do it. It's not courage at all. So having too much fear makes you useless, cowardly, right? Having too little fear makes you reckless. The brave man is the one who's calibrated all that, and he lands in the middle. That's the truly courageous man. He fears what deserves fear and then does the right thing anyway. All right, now let's talk about what mentally strong people with fortitude actually look like. We spent several minutes talking about it, defining it. Let's see what such a person really looks like. I think it's important. Thomas Aquinas breaks this down. He gives us a lot of elements. So, the courageous man is this and this and this. We can't go into all of them, but I think 3 are really important. Having courage, having patience, and having what he calls greatness of soul, or what he calls magnanimity. Each one of them shows us something different about fortitude. Courage, as we've said, is the ability to overcome your fear and do the act that's scary here and now. Patience comes from enduring prolonged suffering. And this greatness of soul, what he called magnanimity, is the man who chooses a great life, who chooses to do great things for the good. And when you put all these things together, they give you a pretty good picture. So let's just start with the courage for this second. Most people think fortitude just means courage. It doesn't just mean that, but courage is one expression. It's a part of fortitude, and it's a great one. It helps a person confront the danger, confront the fear. A firefighter running into a burning building, a soldier charging in battle, a man standing up to a bully, a woman speaking the truth, and everyone else is too scared and remains quiet. These are acts of courage, and they deserve our admiration. Here's the thing Thomas Aquinas wants to bring up to us about them. Notice this. They're usually just one-off moments. It's one decisive act, and it's over. It's very scary. It's a test, 100%, but boom, you do it, and it's done, right? Walking into the boxing ring for the first time, walking into a cage or a mixed martial arts fight or a kickboxing ring for the first time. Boom, you do it, and then the fight's over, and it's over, right? It's kind of a one-off act. So Aquinas then asks this, is that fortitude? Yes, of course it is. But is it the only kind? He says no. He says no. There's that other kind I mentioned before, patience. It's not just doing the difficult one-off act, the difficult moment. It's the courage to endure a whole season of pain. Fortitude over time. 30 days, 30 months, 30 years, right? It's one thing to have the courage to run into a burning building and save some people in there. Great thing. It's another thing to just endure suffering over a long period of time. Aquinas says the second thing is harder. Courageous acts are hard, acts of extreme patience are harder. Enduring. It's not because courage is less noble. It's not because courage is less important. It's because the courageous moment ends. But the man who has patience, that guy can endure the suffering for a long period of time. It doesn't end. So that's the second way. So we can be, when we have fortitude, we want to develop this mental strength. We can have moments of courage. We want to develop that. We want to develop this habit of patience where we can endure suffering over a long period of time. Thomas Aquinas says that is actually harder. And then there's this third element. It's also about choosing a life that's worthy of hardship. What he called magnanimity, greatness of soul, a magnanimous man, big, great souled man, right? He doesn't just have courage. He doesn't just have patience, but he's willing to do things, take on great responsibilities because they're worthy of his potential, because they're worthy of a human being. He's not just looking for suffering for its own sake. He seeks worthy, hard goals because of the great goods that will come from them. The magnanimous man. So you have the courageous man, the patient man, the magnanimous man, three elements that make up fortitude. You can do the scary one-off acts. You're mentally strong and resilient to endure long-term suffering. And you have the courage to live a great life, to attempt great things in your life. Take on hardships willingly for the sake of some good. Right? You put all those elements together, that gives you a pretty good picture of a mentally strong person. Can do all those things. And notice that there's what we've been mentioning. It's not always about a battlefield or a burning building in our daily lives, right? Most of the things we can practice all these things this week if we're aware of them. So it's not just these great moments of crisis that we need this virtue. It's in the daily life every day. All right, now let's look at some examples of people who've exemplified this virtue. It's always good to have role models, people you can look up to, and you can come up with your own examples. I have a few here. For example, Marcus Aurelius, right? At one time, emperor of Rome, most powerful man in the world. His reign was not comfortable at all. They had a plague that swept through the empire. It killed millions of people. He had wars going on in the north. He spent years living in the military camps instead of palaces. He buried child after child. His own health was poor. If anyone had the right to complain, it was Marcus Aurelius, you know. But instead, he had this notebook, which we now have a book called The Meditations. It's his own personal notebook. He didn't write it to be published, but he wrote it for himself. But every time he sits down, he writes these reminders to himself in this notebook, in the Meditations. Not for us to read because he had no idea, but he wrote it because he was trying to govern one difficult thing himself. He was reminding himself to stop complaining, do the work in front of you, meet each hardship with dignity, accept what you can't change, do what reason requires. That's fortitude. Not a man without suffering, but he was a man who refused to let suffering become his master. Another example we talked about in a prior episode is Cicero. When we studied his work on duties, we saw a man who believed that some things were worth more than life itself. He knew exactly what opposing the political forces was going to cost him in his day. He spoke anyway, he wrote anyway, he stood up anyway, and he got what he expected. He got murdered. They cut off his head and his hands, and they nailed him up in the Roman Forum as a warning to everyone else, hey, don't oppose us, dude. You know what I mean? So by, again, every worldly measure, Cicero lost, but 2,000 years later, we're still talking about him. We're still reading the words written by those hands. So fortune doesn't always guarantee victory, but sometimes it asks you to lose everything except your character. Another example of fortitude is really the man nobody knows. He's not an emperor. He's not a famous philosopher. He's not a soldier. Right? The man who gets up at 4:30 every morning for 11 years to do a job he doesn't love because his family needs him to. Right? The husband who sits beside his wife going through chemotherapy. The father who works 2 jobs, still comes home to coach his kids' little league. The business owner who refused to cheat. Even if he could cheat his way out of financial problems, he won't do it. History will never remember these people, but their children will, his wife will, the people who work with him will. This is a man of courage too. This is a man of enduring, a man who's faithful, standing firm day after day, year after year. Doesn't make the history books, but this is where courage lives in the average person. And maybe that's the most encouraging truth of all, right? Because you and I aren't soldiers or emperors either. You don't have to be Marcus Aurelius. You don't have to be Cicero. You don't have to be a Navy SEAL to be courageous. You don't have to become famous. You just have to be the kind of person who does what's right, even when it's hard. That's fortitude. All right, so I hope I've convinced you on what fortitude is and why you need it. At this point, you might be saying, that sounds great, Scott, but man, I'm not that person. I'm actually pretty mentally weak. That sounds great, but I can't do that. How can I be this kind of man you're talking about? There's actually a method. I have a method to show you today based upon tons of philosophical research, a daily practice that you can start making yourself a mentally strong person. It will work. Like I said at the beginning of this talk, courage is a learnable skill. Building fortitude, mental toughness, mental strength, whatever you want to call it, it's a learnable skill. You can be mentally strong if you're willing to put in the time. Just like you want to be physically strong, you can do that too. By going to the gym and lifting weights and eating right, you can get physically jacked. I'm telling you, if you go through this routine, mental weightlifting, you can get mentally jacked, right? Physical muscles, mental muscles, both of those are within your power. You don't have to be born with them. I tell the kids at my martial arts school, no baby is born. It comes out, when a mom gives birth to a baby, no baby ever comes out jacked, The only way people get jacked is through the exercises they do in their life. Well, no one comes out mentally jacked either. Okay, you build courage through method, through mental weightlifting. And just like I could give you a workout that you could go physically do, but I can't lift the weights for you. You got to go do that work. In the same way, I can give you the mental workout that you can do, but I can't do the work for you. You got to do your own mental push-ups here. But that's what we're going to talk about now. I'm going to give you a method for building more fortitude, and you can become a mentally strong person. Not tomorrow, but you can. Because character is not discovered. Character is not something you're born with. Character is trained. And you become courageous by practicing courage. So I call this the 3x3 method, 3x3. The 3x3 method, I developed this after spending years reading Aristotle, the Stoics, Aquinas. I just kind of boiled all this wisdom down. It's a little daily practice that you can do. 3x3 method. Number one, 3 disciplines. 3 things you have to do every day. I call it 3 disciplines. Discipline is doing what you have to do, when you have to do it, whether you feel like it or not. Do these 3 things every day. Then you're going to do 3 deliberate acts of courage. And then at the end of the day, you're going to go through 3 daily questions. That's it. 3x3. Nothing magical about the number 3. I'm just giving you enough to give you some practice without being overwhelming. This is not that hard. And the goal here is not perfection, it's just consistency. If you do this faithfully, it will change you. Again, not overnight, but for sure it will change you over time. Let's talk about the first discipline, the first part of the 3x3. In the morning, prepare. Prepare your mind. I want you to start thinking and talking to yourself like you are a courageous person. You say, well, that sounds like positive thinking. So what? So what? Positive thinking is great. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning. Like I said, his meditations were never intended to be a book. It's a private notebook. It's a conversation he has with himself. And what he's doing in there, he gives daily reminders of the man he intends to be today. He starts book 2 by reminding himself today he's going to meet difficult people, ungrateful people, selfish, arrogant people, because he didn't want to be surprised. The Stoics call this premeditatio, thinking in advance, kind of a mental rehearsal of the day, getting your mind ready before the battle begins. Telling yourself, I'm going to be this kind of person today. You're not trying to convince yourself of something that's not true. You're reminding yourself of who you intend to become before that first challenge arises today. Okay? So every morning, I do it in the mirror. I have a whole list of things, the positive self-talk stuff. I have a whole list of these things. Say things like, I am a mentally strong person. Today, I will act with fortitude. I will choose duty over comfort. I will not complain. I will not quit. I won't let fear bring me down. I'll do what's right, even if it's hard. Today, I'll practice courage. You say these things. Again, it's not wishful thinking. It's preparing my mind in advance for the kind of person I'm going to be today. So mental prep in the morning, first part of the 3x3 method. Second thing, the second discipline, practice it now. Go out and do that. This is Aristotle. We become brave by doing brave acts. Go out and do them in your day. Plenty of opportunities. This is important. This is crucial that comes from Aristotle here. Like I said, acts build habits. Habits build your character. Your character becomes your destiny. You want to be mentally strong? You do mentally strong acts. Pretty soon that becomes a mental habit of doing mentally strong acts. You become a mentally strong kind of person, and you live the life of a mentally strong person. So, now that you said those things to you in the morning, the first part, the second part is you go out in the day and do 3 deliberate acts of fortitude. 3 acts. I want you to, a conscious, deliberate acts. It's the second one of this, it's the second step here. Not one, one's not enough, not 10, you'll quit, right? This is just enough to give you enough attention and practice. 3, I think, is a good number. So go out. And now the world is your training ground. The world's going to give you plates, okay, to make your mind stronger. All those inconveniences are going to be opportunities now. All the criticisms, people talking about you, is an opportunity now. Temptations, hard things like that, it's an opportunity now. Difficult conversations, bring it. I can get stronger through this. It's an opportunity now. So now you can stop asking, well, how can I avoid these scary things in my life? You don't avoid them. You go out and embrace them, because those are the weights that are going to make you stronger today. You got 3 acts to do today, dude. You got 3 acts to do today. Go out and look for them. 3 acts of courage every day. Like what? You got to be on the lookout, man. But you tell the truth when a lie would be easier. Make that phone call you're avoiding. Finish the workout you wanted to quit or you didn't want to do. When people criticize you or correct you, just accept it without complaining, without being defensive. Endure discomfort without complaining. Sit in traffic and don't whine about it. Keep your promise when breaking would be more convenient. Just do the harder right instead of the easier wrong. Look, there are a lot of opportunities here. It doesn't really matter which 3 you choose, but the point is, as you set up your day to go look for these opportunities. This is Aristotle's method. All right, now the third discipline. This is the third thing you have to do. At the end of the day, examine. It's the accountability part. Before you go to bed, go back and just replay your day. This is an old practice. The old philosophers did it. Stoics did it. The Christian tradition adopted it, called it a daily examination of conscience. The idea is this: a life improves only when it's examined, right? This is what this podcast is, the examined life. Examine your day. Go back through the day. This is the third step of the 3x3 method. Ask yourself these 3 things. Where was I courageous today? Where did I show fortitude? First thing. Second thing, where did fear win? In what places did I fail? Did fear govern me? Accept that. So acknowledge your wins. Hey, I was courageous here and here. Look at, honestly, admit your losses. I wimped out here. Okay? Fear won here. Second thing. Third thing, what will I do differently tomorrow? See, this is how character grows, one honest day at a time. So this third step, this examination at the end of the night, you look through your day and say, okay, this morning I said I was going to be a courageous person. That was step 1. During the day I went out and I was supposed to do 3 courageous acts. Now it's nighttime, third step now. How'd I do? How'd my day go? Well, I did this and this was okay. I got really angry in traffic. Okay, well, let's work on your patience, right? Work on that mental toughness. Traffic doesn't bother you anymore. Okay, I'll do that differently tomorrow. You see? So go through your day, you acknowledge your wins, you acknowledge your losses regarding this virtue, and then you say, all right, what am I going to change tomorrow? This is how character grows. This is the system. Every morning, prepare your mind. Every day, do the things that make you the kind of person you want to be. At night, examine your soul. 3 disciplines, 3 acts, 3 questions, 3x3 method. Simple. There's no reason why you can't do that. And it works. The ancient philosophers knew this is how virtue is formed. Not through inspiration, not through reading a book, not through watching a philosophy podcast. Through acts. Acts until they become habits, habits until they become character. And that's repeat enough until courage is the kind of person you are. It's not something you occasionally do. It's just second nature. It's your identity now. So I encourage you to pick up this practice because imagine 2 men 5 years from now. One spends the next 5 years screwing around, doing nothing. The other guy spends his next 5 years building his mental strength. 5 years doing nothing, 5 years building mental strength. Those 5 years are going to pass. You're going to be one of those 2 men in 5 years, assuming you don't die, right? You're going to be one of those guys. Which one do you want to be? You want to be the man trained in courage or the man untrained in courage? You want to be mentally strong or mentally weak? The answer is obvious, okay? So make those votes for the kind of man you're becoming. So tomorrow morning, let's go. 3x3. Prepare your mind, do the acts, examine your day at night, live that examined life that we're trying to do, apply philosophy to our lives to make our lives better. Because someday, right, we know this is coming, life is going to ask difficult things of us. And when that day comes, we don't want to have to suddenly become courageous. We want to be trained in it. We want to show up mentally jacked when the scary things come. That's it. Become the man of fortitude. This is it. This is the examined life. Vita examinata.